He who loves his wife loves himself, and he who tries to tear down the old steel mill and make a profit off of it, well, he will meet a tragic end. That's how religion works, isn't it? Yeah, close enough. Jacob's Wife is a new horror film from director Travis Stevens, who directed, check notes, Girl on the Third Floor. Well, that cements this movie's legacy as being absolute dog shit because Girl on the Third Floor was absolute dog shit. And I understand the directors have to start somewhere, but holy fucking shit, that movie had CM Punk, so for wrestling fans, people might have tuned in for it, but other than that, that movie was basically a college film project that was slapped together, and the professor gave him a passing grade because he was tired of hearing about this, film student being this, having these grandiose ideas and everything. He's like, fine, I'll get him out of my class, and then maybe he'll go on to do better stuff, but he'll be out of my hair. And then probably pulled his hair out when he saw that because it wasn't very fucking good. And this movie isn't very fucking good either. Now, it's a bit above Girl on the Third Floor, but that's not saying much. It came up there a few times and then got pushed down into the horror quagmire giggity of just, frickin' muck. And it was a hodgepodge of ideas, and it didn't succeed in fleshing out any of them because it wanted to be a dark comedy and it wasn't funny, and it didn't even get the dark aspect of it except for the lighting because some things were so fucking dark. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And it couldn't be serious because then it would just go full-on goofy. The characters were inconsistent. They would change their motivations depending on the goddamn scene, or sometimes it would seem like scenes were being rewritten. Some scenes didn't even seem like they were goddamn written. So in case you can't tell, this movie wasn't very fucking good. I will get into spoilers here in a little bit, but this movie was an absolute dumpster fire from beginning to end. And if you're a CM Punk fan, you're hoping to see him in a lot of this. He's in about 3 scenes within the last 15 minutes of the movie. So, you have the characters of Anne and Pastor Jacob, and Anne is a pastor's wife. And it's a marriage of convenience. Even though they do get along, it is clearly obvious that Anne wants to go out and do some stuff. And okay, that might be something. This wife wants to get out and break free. She wants to break free. And this pastor, while well-intentioned and does love his wife, he is married to the church also, and she needs to follow along because that's kind of how some of this religious stuff works. And then you have various other characters that populate. You have the girl that played the nun in, the Conjuring movies, and she's playing Valak. And she's in this. I wonder if you can guess what kind of character she plays. And you have other, ones like members of the church and neighbors and stuff like that. And there's not really a whole lot of people that are noteworthy people in this, though. Barbara Crampton has been in a lot of horror movies like From Beyond and Chopping Mall and stuff like that. But everybody else was just kind of there. The acting wasn't even really the worst thing because you can't expect really great acting in a movie like this. But so that opening line was from a sermon that Pastor Jacob was giving. And then he's talking to a girl named Amelia who's walking home and seemingly taking forever, like this walk home from church. Apparently, she lives in the next county because she was walking from the beginning of the day, or like about the middle of the day, all the way home. It's like, seriously, is there no bus line that goes through this town? And she ends up suddenly disappearing. Oh no, what the hell's going on? And there's lots of rats all around town, but they're very clean rats. It's like the pet rat George from the Mankind, promos, or maybe like, it's definitely not rats from that one, from like The Secret of Nim, like, the evil rats and stuff like that. I need to retro review that. You got a lot of clean rats that pop around. The camera work is really shite. I mean, really shite. And I'm sure that there was talent in the technical department, but this movie was so rushed. I mean, the graphics and everything, it was just so goddamn bad. We get a dinner with the pastor and his wife, and, they're friends, and Jacob's wife is like, all about convenience, all about, wanting to honor her husband and everything, but he can tell she yearns to break free. We get uncomfortable close-ups of the pastor brushing his teeth. I don't understand why, and snoring, and then Anne and Jacob, basically talk one day, and Anne's going to meet an old friend who's going to take care of this old mill outside of town and turn it into retail shops. Now, if you take a look at this location, you take a look at what's going on, you don't understand how the hell they could turn into retail shops, but whatever. Let's just go with an old horror cliche. So, basically, these two used to be together. They kind of sort of get together, but kind of don't, because she still wants to love her husband, because she does, but she still really does like this guy. And then things start to go whack, because there's this weird crate with stuff in it, and oh no, these digitized rats attack him. And it's really hilarious because these special effects are absolute goddamn ass. It's like Ratatouille on steroids. And, God, From there, it actually gets worse. I mean, it's so fucking ridiculous. And it's, again, the movie tries for these jolts with these horrifying moments that it doesn't work. The music choice is basic and ridiculous at the same time. The music does not fit one goddamn bit. Crate rats biting up your cheeks. Crate rats fighting everyone they meet. They turn the town upside down and bite around. So, basically what ends up happening is it turns out there's an evil, force that is going to take over this town. And what this movie kind of reminded me a bit of at times was the tone that Bubba Hotep tried to have, but Bubba Hotep had Bruce Campbell and had life and energy. I wasn't the biggest fan of the movie, but that at least tried to balance horror and comedy pretty well. This one could not balance horror and comedy very well. It turns out that there's this creature that is causing people to be bloodsuckers. Gee, I wonder what it is. It's a vampire. I'm sorry, it's a fucking vampire. If you figured out anything from watching that, and figured out like why people are acting all weird, well, suddenly it's because it's a vampire. And then from there, I'm going to basically get into spoilers after this because Anne and a bunch of other people are having to fight back against this force, but it's done in such a silly way that it doesn't really fucking matter because you don't care about any of these characters. And it's really a shame because you could tell they were trying with this, at least the cast was, but the director's inept, the writing is absolute shit, and that's pretty much it right there. So now I'm going to get into spoilers. Okay, so the vampire ends up killing that girl Amelia on her way home. She becomes a vampire. Anne ends up becoming a vampire and drinking blood in really comedic ways. Who are you and what do you want? She does yoga stuff and it's really, really stupid. Jacob is alarmed by Anne's change, but he loves his wife and wants to help her. We get a weird dinner scene where she isn't really interested in eating. And then she vomits up the blood at one point because she goes shopping and she takes the blood, she buys the blood from the meat department. She has neck wounds that are the size of this. It's insane. And a weird voice saying Anne. And the master, by the way, turns out to be the girl that played the nun in some of the worst makeup I've seen. Worst goddamn makeup. She's eating worms and, well, you have new teeth coming in. Well, that happens at your age. No, it fucking doesn't. What kind of dentist are you? And then Jacob is looking for clues. And then he finds this young couple that he ran into that were smoking and sitting on the roof of on the hood of his car. And they're there, seemingly taking over the old mill. It's like a Scooby-Doo episode. But then the guy ends up getting killed. He rescues the girl. They run out because he uses a cross. And Amelia's, the vampire. And, well, this isn't me. Something happened or whatever. Anne's freaking out about all this. The movie just continues to move along, yet somehow stand still at the same time, because we all know where this is going. After Anne kills this neighbor, he's like, well, I better help mop up the blood and everything. And the cops are like, well, hey, this girl claims that you were there and that you were fighting off vampires. And oh, no, I wasn't there. Wasn't that your book? Yeah, but I wasn't there. Whew. I could have helped you, but I felt ashamed, and they're having this back and forth thing like a normal married couple because she can quench her thirst, but she also can't. Maybe she can. And then drinking blood isn't exactly a sustainable lifestyle. I mean, he is right. That is true. And they basically end up finally going to try to attack this vampire, yet Jacob changes his mind saying, I'm going to do this in the name of the Lord and to save you. And then he totally changes his fucking mind and just leaves his wife. And then his wife ends up getting picked up. And this, again, you see what I mean about the inconsistent changes in the characters. And Jacob is disgusted. I don't know why in the world Jacob's acting disgusted when he wants to save his wife. And it's like, well, I know she's turning into a vampire, but I have to honor the Lord, but this is ridiculous. It kind of reminds me of how they made the priest like a karate guy in Dead Alive, except they tried to make a whole movie out of that character, and it didn't really fucking work. So they go to the master's house or somewhere. They basically find that there is this body that they wrap up in a bed sheet that they're gonna have the wife feast on. And then we get dinner theater interrupted when she's trying to drain the blood out of him, and these friends come over for this date, and the girl's freaking out. She doesn't know what's going on. The husband has a knife, and he's pointed at her. And then the wife gets taken up and then gets possessed and killed. And then CM Punk's finally showed up somewhere during, like, a couple scenes before this, which is hilarious. We get gusher vampires because that vampire finally gets stabbed. Nothing means anything because the vampire is supposed to says, hey, if you suck my blood, then the thirst will be quenched. Yet, but you still need to thirst and do this stuff. Do you just do it because you like it? What is going on? And then Punk shoots him, and then by the way, his character's named Deputy Colton. And then we get a blood quicksand, and then the vampire explodes and does all goofy shit. And well, it wasn't your choice to make, the wife says, because Jacob stabbed her because he wanted to save his wife. And then they lay some ground rules like, hey, we'll go off and go somewhere and sell the house, but I want to make my own decisions. This is all about relationships, and it's fucking stupid. And Jacob's wife gets a fucking F. He gets a goddamn F. I don't even know what else to say. This movie is absolute shit. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Rithlin. I'll see you soon.